as we do a presentation here. There we go. Linda, do you see my screen all right? I can't see you anymore, so if you wouldn't mind telling me, yes, everything's good. Someone give me thumbs up.
Yep,
so
you're
I'm
good.
Lori. Thank you so much. So I'm Lori Ball. I'm the Public Education Coordinator for the Alzheimer's Society, and our topic today is memory and aging. What a great topic. It's one I know that it kind of piques a lot of people's interests. We understand that as we get older, we see some changes happening in our memory, and sometimes we may not do anything about it. We don't know, is this normal or is this not so normal? So sometimes we find that maybe these changes are happening so gradually that we can't pinpoint when they started. So in today's presentation, I have tried to make it as interactive as possible, and I will be doing a quiz. Don't worry, it doesn't matter if you get the answers right or wrong. It's more about just thinking about the topic at hand today. So there'll be some true and false questions. If you get it wrong, it doesn't really matter. It's a way of learning, right? An interactive way of learning. So what we'll do is we'll go through that. I also have taken bits and pieces of today's presentation from a program that I do very consistently with the Alzheimer's Society and out in the community that's called Strengthen Your Mind. Now, Strengthen Your Mind is a 12-week program. I actually tapered it a little bit. I found this information and put it together because it kind of went hand in glove with the things that we were already doing at the Alzheimer's Society. But I found that a lot of people in the community just wanted some information to know when should I be concerned? And the Strengthen Your Mind program is one that is a very self-reflective program. And so I have done it in sort of different parts of Brantford. I've done it in conjunction with the libraries, and actually in September, I'll be doing it with the library in Brantford. So if you're at all interested in that program, there are practice activities, there are homework activities, and research behind all of the things that we talk about in that program, which I didn't have to collect on my own because I'm busy in my role. I don't have time to always keep on top. And this was a program that was all set out. I just made presentations to make it pretty. So if you're at all interested, keep an eye out. September 20th is the first session of Strengthen Your Mind with the Brantford Library. If the timing doesn't work for you, I would say keep in touch with me or call the Alzheimer's Society. We can always put you on a wait list. We do this program very, very often. And I have a load of people that have gone through that program that are so happy that they did. It helps you to sort of see where your strengths are and how you use your mind and how you can strengthen it. So it's very, very personal to yourself and not to be compared to anyone else. We all use our brains different. All right, so to start today's presentation, what I'm going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a quiz. All right, so you have your pens and papers there from the activity that we just did. If you want to write those down, that's great. But I'll give you a bit of time, you'll see, and then I'll give you some information. I'll give you the right answer and information behind it. So hopefully you're ready. We'll get right into it. Question number 1. The majority of older people age 65 or older are senile. Do you believe this to be true or false? Hopefully you said false. Only about 5% of people have a form of dementia. The word senile is actually an out-of-date medical term that's used to differentiate the onset of a dementia. But it's important, however, to know that dementia in itself has some sort of underlying issue. There's something else going on to cause that dementia. All right. It's not that you get to be a certain age and you've got dementia. All right. Question number 2. Advancing age causes memory loss. True or false? Oftentimes people will say true, but it's actually false. Growing older does not cause memory loss. There are certain changes in memory that can be expected as a person ages, and we'll go over these things in the session today. However, losing your memory is not one of them. It's not like you become 80 years old and your memory is gone. All right. Question number 3. Depression can affect memory. Do you think this is true or false? Hopefully you said true. Mild depression can cause problems with memory, and depression can actually mimic those symptoms of dementia. If depression is diagnosed, treatment is started, and it can be sort of even changes in lifestyle, improvement in memory can often occur. Question number 4. Once brain cells are lost, more cannot be created. Do you think this is true or false? It is false. Although it's true that we lose thousands of brain cells each day, new brain cells can be created at any age. So that's great news. Question number 5. Short-term memory refers to something that has happened in the last month. Do you think this is true or false? The answer is false. Short-term memory actually refers to something that's happened in the last few seconds or few minutes, not the last month. Question number 6. It can take older people longer than younger people to recall information. Do you think this is true or false? It is definitely true. As you age, it does take us longer to recall information. However, even though it may take us longer, in normal aging, that information does come to us. It eventually comes there. It usually pops up at times when we don't expect it. It's like, oh yeah, I remember this, right? It just, when we were in our early 20s, we could remember anything we wanted to when we wanted to. It was right there. I think of us having that as we get older, our filing cabinet's just so much bigger, and we have to sort through so much more files to get what we need. When we were 20, it was like only one drawer of a filing cabinet. Question number 7. Poor nutrition can cause memory loss. Do you think this is true or false? The answer is true. Lack of B vitamins in your diet, specifically vitamins B6 and B12, can cause memory loss, and that can mimic those symptoms of dementia. Question number 8. Problems with memory can often be attributed to lack of focus. Do you think this is true or false? It is true. Not focusing on what you're doing is an enemy of memory. In order to remember something, you must really pay attention and focus 100%. Question number 9. Age does not affect a person's ability to learn. True or false? It is true. As we grow older, it may take us longer, and we may have to practice a little bit more than we did when we were younger, but we are still able to learn new information at any age. And we'll close out the quiz with question number 10. Your short-term memory is the first stop for information coming to your brain. Do you think this is true or false? It's actually false. Information coming to your brain first passes through sensory memory and then onto the short-term memory. So sensory memory is kind of like the first filter to your brain. We're bombarded with all kinds of senses. And so if it deems something important, then it puts it into the short-term memory. And then in the short-term memory, if it deems it important, it may put it into the long-term memory. So it's sensory memory, that's that first filter in our brain. So now we're going to look at sort of expected age-related changes in memory. So we can look at what's normal and then what's not so normal. So as we heard in the quiz, memory loss is not a normal part of aging. Right? We know that there are many people who live well into their 80s and 90s who have their memories as sharp as a tack. They know and can keep track of everything, whether it's names, who came to see them, what they did when. I always say Grandma Ball was one of those. She lived into her 90s and she had a better memory than I do. And I think that's the interesting thing is we all use our brains in different ways. It's like, what's your normal, right? Some people have never been good at remembering names. So we can't say, okay, once you forget people's names, that's when you've got a problem, right? Some people are more numbers people, right? Some are, I remember faces, but I don't always remember names. So remember, each one of us is different on how we use our brain. So there are some changes that are to be expected as we get older. And I'll go over these things because I think when we kind of see the difference, it sometimes puts our mind a little bit at ease. Sometimes people see these little bit of changes. I'm not doing things the way that I used to, and they may get really anxious about how their memory's working. So the first thing, and we did hear this in the quiz, it does take us longer to process new information. Right? It's also a little more difficult maybe to learn a new skill as we get older, or sometimes even reading a lengthy magazine article. We might find that as we get older, we might have to read that article a few times before it sinks in. It also takes us longer to process any of that recall information. Sometimes I can't get it as fast as I want to. So whereas before you might have been able to recall events and facts and names really quickly, now you might find that it feels like it's up on the tip of your tongue. It's like you can't just pull that answer as quickly as you used to. And that is totally normal. All right. You've got more in that brain to filter through. The other thing as we get older, as a person ages, multitasking becomes more and more challenging. In fact, it can be said that multitasking is an enemy of memory. In the past, you may have been able to cook dinner and talk on the phone and feed the dog and do all of those things at the same time. Now you find that when you're doing those 3 tasks all at once, it might leave you a little bit frustrated. So we've all had those times, and I know Dave talked about walking in the room and not knowing what you went in there for, right? Oftentimes there's lots of distractions on the way to that room that you went to go and get that item. And sometimes when you go back to the original spot where you had the first thought, it does pop back into your mind, and that's normal. All right. The thing is, you want to focus on what it is that you're doing. Try to minimize those distractions when going into the other room. Even sometimes saying something out loud is a different way to think of it, because you're not only thinking it, you're saying it, you're hearing it. And so there's multiple avenues to go to actually retrieve that information. So when is memory loss cause for concern? Right? It may be when you see someone or yourself repeating the same stories or questions more than usual. It may be when there's some difficulty performing some of those routine tasks. And I know the example here is making a sandwich, but if you've never really made a sandwich before, then that example wouldn't work for you. But know the regular routines that you do And are you mixing up steps of the routine? Do you know where to go to get the supplies to fulfill that task? Think of the normal things that you would do. The next might be with abstract thinking or numbers. So examples using balancing a checkbook, knowing what bills you paid this month, right? Sometimes we don't always write things down, we just know what we did. Even knowing where the hands go on a clock to make a certain time. Those are abstract thoughts. Forgetting conversations or important appointments. And sometimes when I put this up, people kind of get a little anxious because I missed an appointment last week, right? And they might think, okay, I know she said missing appointments, but I mean things that would affect your daily life. So I don't want to say the first time you miss an appointment, that means something's going on. It might be that you had loads on the go, right? And that stress sort of blocked you from doing, or you got into doing something and you lost track of time. Those things happen. But think of, is it affecting your daily life? Are these things continually happening? Next is misplacing items or putting them in strange locations. Some examples I give are the watch in the sugar bowl, or the book in the microwave, or the milk in the cupboard. Those things don't make sense in our reality, but for a person with dementia, it made sense to them at the time, right? I know this goes in a cupboard looking like thing, and I put it here. So usually caregivers who are supporting someone with dementia symptoms sometimes will notice these things in places that don't quite make sense. Becoming easily distracted or disoriented is another symptom. Changes in personality. So it can be anything like mood swings, lack of trust in others, maybe depression, isolation, anxiety. All of these things may be kind of a warning sign that something else is going on. The ability to grow new nerve cells is what allows and supports brain plasticity. So you naturally lose neurons as you age. And over time, this can affect different aspects of memory. You may have trouble separating and storing new memories. But the good thing is to know that even as we get older, the brain is more than capable to learn new information, create new ideas, and actually change in response to learning. All right. So even though you might be getting up there in age, don't think you can't learn something new, right? I know they tell us you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but that's really malarkey, right? Look at this dog and look at the trick that he learned, right? He's pretty remarkable. So it's okay to realize that as you're learning something in your older age, it's going to take you a little bit longer, and that's okay, right? Continue to learn. What tends to happen as we get older, we end up doing things that make us feel comfortable. We sort of do the same things in the same way all the time. Even something as little as changing the order of how you get dressed in the morning boosts neurons in your brain, right? What if you do it the same way all the time? What happens is you're kind of in robot mode, right? It's like your brain's not even thinking about doing it. And I bet you we've all had times where we've done something and then later on, did I do that? And it was because you were in that robot mode. It became routine for you. So now we're going to talk about what dementia is, so that what's not so normal. And oftentimes when I'm doing presentations for the community, the first question that I'll have is, what is dementia? And how is it different than Alzheimer's disease? All right. So dementia in itself is just a set of symptoms. And those set of symptoms are loss of memory, understanding, and judgment. A lot of different things can fall under this big term of dementia. Now, Alzheimer's disease is just the most common form of dementia. Okay. So think of it as the big umbrella term, and I'll show you on the next slide that each spoke of the umbrella is just a different type of dementia. So I use the parallel to a cold, right? The common cold, we have different symptoms that come with that cold. Sometimes it might be that you're having the stuffed up nose or the runny nose, and you have a headache and you feel tired. Other times it might be the throat, right? But you don't have all of those symptoms all in one every time you have a cold. Sometimes it might be more just the throat. And then the next time you have a cold, it might be more stuffy nose, right? But we still call it cold, right? So think of that big umbrella term of cold like that big umbrella term of dementia, all right? There are many different types of dementia. These are some of the most common forms that you may have heard. So Alzheimer's disease, Pick's disease, Lewy body dementia, vascular dementia, frontal temporal dementia, even mixed dementia you might hear, which is oftentimes an Alzheimer's disease and a Lewy body dementia, but there you could have Alzheimer's disease and a vascular dementia as well. So mixed dementias, it's like there's more than one thing going on. And not always easy to get a diagnosis. But I think back in the day, whenever we saw any of those symptoms of a dementia, we called it Alzheimer's disease because that's all we knew, right? I sometimes think that we at the Alzheimer's Society should be called the Dementia Society. But back in the 80s when we started, we didn't really know about all these different types of dementia, right? And then I'm glad to say that we're not handling people who have Alzheimer's disease the way that we used to in the past as well, right? We used to lock them up and keep them away from everyone else. So I'm glad to say that we're not doing that anymore. And there are people who are living well with dementia in our communities. And anytime we can get awareness out there, it's only helping our communities be stronger. So I want to tell you about, I didn't tell you how many, there's over 100 different types of dementia, over 100. When I started in this role, even 9 years ago, we were saying about 80. Now we're saying over 100. So we learn more about the brain all the time, and we're able to put things into compartments better than we could in the past. So there are some reversible types of dementia and irreversible. So like Alzheimer's disease and Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal dementia, those dementias are irreversible. But I like to really spend some time on reversible types of dementia because sometimes we can be dealing with things that actually are a treatable cause of the symptoms of dementia that are there. And the first thing is depression. And depression definitely can bring about those signs and symptoms of a dementia, but can be solved with either a medication or a lifestyle change or a combination of the two. The next is medications. Sometimes, and when I worked out in the community for an organization called Senior Support Services, I saw a lot of people who were taking their pills right from the bottle. And sometimes they would forget and maybe over medicate with a certain medication. Sometimes the dose was different. Sometimes it was like the timing. And so mixing up medications or even a new medication sometimes can bring about different reactions. I have to share an example with my mom. My mom is physically not the most well person, but she has her mind is intact. We were noticing when my dad was in hospital and the children were staying to stay with mom to help her, that at lunchtime, after she took her lunchtime medications, we were noticing, we said she went to outer space. You couldn't even talk with her. Her lip curled. She was not herself. And it was because the kids consistently were keeping each other in the loop of what was going on that we were all noticing the same thing around that same time. It was after that we went to the doctor and said, something's going on with these lunchtime meds. Sure enough, We were able to make some adjustments, and I'm happy to say that my mom is back to her normal self. It was something to see, and so I like to share that story because sometimes people will see the changes that are happening or notice those. And my dad used to say to us, and we didn't really get it, your mom, he go, your mom. And we were like, oh, he's being so mean to her. It wasn't until we all saw it and did something about it and saw the change after this. You want to make definitely keep an eye on things for sure. Even nutritional disorders. I saw a lot of people in my work that sort of sustain themselves on tea and toast. Tea and toast can definitely sustain a person, but it doesn't give the body or the brain the fuel that it needs to live at an optimal level. So we would get those clients on a Meals on Wheels program, and we would see great improvements when they were getting well-balanced, nutritious meals. Even metabolic disorders like a thyroid condition can bring about those symptoms of a dementia, but can be solved with some medication. And once they get that thyroid working the way that it's supposed to, then a person can even out and not have the issues, those dementia symptoms. Delirium is a medical emergency. It's like something is going on that needs to be solved by the doctor. I had a client once who was coming to do programs with the Alzheimer's Society because she couldn't figure out what was going on with her brain. And so she linked in with us and said, as long as I have this, I am going to be doing programs with you. And it was great. But she did come to me one day and said, it's been a long time. We've done a lot of different tests. We found out what my issues were. It's my liver wasn't working properly. We've now started on some new medications. My liver seems to be doing better and my memory is better. And so, Lori, I don't need you anymore. And I was like, that's a great news story. It's so thankful that you were with us when you needed us and that you don't need us anymore. Even infections, so things like a bladder infection or urinary tract infection really can see a spike in changes in memory, and so easily solved with an antibiotic. So research shows us that there's many things that we can do to enhance our quality of life, including making healthy food choices, staying active and staying connected, keeping your brain active. So, do puzzles, but change it up every once in a while, right? Even change, even brushing your teeth with the opposite hand is something that's challenging to your brain and good for you. Take charge of your health. I usually say, you better than anyone else. So when something's up, it's your responsibility to do something about it. Take charge of that health, reduce your stress. It is the number one damage maker out there, and be serious about safety. So just going through each of these things a little bit, you want to choose wisely, keep your brain clear of toxins and chemicals, moderate alcohol consumption. And if you smoke, it's a good idea to cut it down or maybe even quit. You got to think of the things you can control and the things you can't control. And I would never ever say, don't treat yourself and don't have a piece of pie, right? It's just more about making sure that your levels are going to be fine. So your cholesterol and your sugars and your blood pressure, you want to make sure that you're getting the best nutrition that you can and making some proper choices. Reduce that stress. Like I said, it's the number one damage maker out there. And stress can actually block your brain from doing the things that it needs to do. So we can't get away from stress totally, right? We all have stress from different areas in our life, and we have to learn to manage that stress. But definitely make sure that you recognize your signs and triggers and plan time to decompress and develop a stress toolkit. It might be meditation or yoga or something. Maybe it's a walk in nature. Whatever it is, recognize your signs and do something about it to manage that stress. A little bit of research behind stress on memory. There was a study that was conducted in 2007 that found that stress that lasts as little as a few hours can actually impair brain cell communication in areas that are associated with learning and memory. The study also found that acute stress activates select molecules that impair memory collection and storage processes in the brain. So really a good idea to stay away from that stress. Also, chronic or long-term stress can make you feel out of control of your life and even do damage to your hippocampus, right? Which is a very important part in the brain that you want to keep working at an optimal level. So the stress hormone is called cortisol. And if you have too much cortisol in your brain, it actually prevents your brain from forming new memories or even recalling existing memories. And we talked about how that becomes an issue as we get older. Next, I would say it's good to keep socially active. So even all of you here today is showing me that you're making a difference there, even during a pandemic. So good for you. It's best to kind of keep up with your relationships with family and friends. And I know even through this, we've found ways, whether it's making more frequent phone calls or Zoom calls or FaceTime calls, we're finding ways to still foster these friendships and relationships. And it's best to kind of keep around people who have a positive outlook on life. You want to try to increase your social outlets as much as you can. Socialization is so good for brain health, but the opposite's true. If you're not getting around people and not socializing, it actually can damage your brain and take years off of a person's life. So it's good to kind of keep those strong social contacts to keep your memory sharp. We really must make socialization an integral and continual part of our lives. We need to find ways to foster friendships, to maintain family ties, maybe make new friends, try new things, volunteer, and be passionate about our lives. Next, I'd say make some healthy food choices. Think of things like your dark fruits and vegetables, your whole grains, your omega-3 fatty acids, and antioxidants. So vegetables like spinach and kale and collard greens, maybe mustard greens and turnip greens are high in that folic acid and folate and are high in B vitamins, which are critical to keeping your brain sharp. Experts recommend that you have 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. So when we're teaching kids, we always talk about eating the rainbow. So eating different colors of things, make sure that you get your variety of fruits and vegetables in there. And antioxidants actually help to protect from damage to your cells. So it's kind of like almost armor to the cells. So the more antioxidants you can get into your system, the better that it can be. So things that are brighter in color have more antioxidants. So you definitely want to keep your berries are the best thing. So keep up on your berries, and pretty soon we'll be having those in season. So eat up your berries where you can. And those omega-3 fatty acids that are found in fish, oftentimes I'll have people say, well, what if I don't eat fish? I really don't like fish and I know that I'm supposed to eat it, but I just can't do it. Try to get fish in your diet at least once a week, and then maybe add things like flaxseed or walnuts into your diet as well. Those are other sources of the omega-3s. And a very important thing to consider as we get older is drinking water. You should always have water on the go. As we get older, we don't detect thirst like we used to. And so always be drinking water. Another thing I would say is protect your head. You want to make sure that safety is always there. One good knock on your head can totally change your life. So wear your protective gear. I know it's not law to wear a helmet when you ride a bike. It's just a really good idea. Think about wearing seatbelts when you're driving and drive safely. Even things like falls prevention totally is a great idea as we get older, right? No no scatter mats. You want to have handrails. Whatever you can do to prevent a fall is a great idea. You want to be physically active. So regular, moderate physical activity helps to maintain your cardiovascular health and can significantly reduce things like heart attacks, strokes, and diabetes, which would then, if you're keeping these things in check, then you're at a lower risk then for a vascular dementia. There is a terrific video, and I know we don't have time today to watch it, but it's something that I think is good for me to mention. It's a 9-minute video that you can find on YouTube. It's by Dr. Michael Evans, and he looks at the research that has been done to show how your life can be better with a half an hour of some kind of movement each, 1/2 an hour each day, right? So he just wants you to think about being active for at least a half an hour a day. It's a great video. It's one of those drawing the pictures and moving along through. So 9 minutes goes by pretty fast. So just go to YouTube and search 23.5 hours and you'll get something that looks like this. Linda, I don't know if you have that email ready. I can also make sure that I have that link so that you can share that with people so they can just click it. The next thing I would say is you want to challenge yourself, right? Learn new skills. Maybe it is practicing names over and over or phone numbers. Find new ways to do old things, right? Change it up a bit. Be a lifelong learner. You can always learn. And there's so many different opportunities in our community to continue to learn. And don't rely on technology to do all your thinking for you. I know sometimes it's easy to just plunk it into the phone or the computer and then it'll remind me. It's good, but you got to kind of do some things on your own or you get kind of set in not working your brain. So if you want to learn more, and I said this at the beginning, we do have a 12-week program called Strengthen Your Mind. So keep an eye out for that. It's a real interactive program. We're even now doing it online. The way I did it in person was a 6-week program and we would do 2-hour sessions. Now we're just doing 1-hour sessions online. So it would be that 12-week program. And I told you when it starts at the Brantford Library. Just so you know about us, the Alzheimer's Society is a local charity, and we aren't just a charity that collects donations. We do a lot of education and support and counseling. We also do health and wellness programs. So we do a lot more than I think the average person thinks we do. And I would say that we're here for anyone. You don't have to have a diagnosis of dementia to be part of our services. We even do a program for people with mild cognitive impairment. So we have a variety of programs and services. I would say that if you ever need us, even if you ever want to just ask a question, just give our Alzheimer's Society a call. Just recognizing there might be people from all over. I did give our 1-888 number, but I'll also give you our local number. It's 519-759-7692. And we have a website. Everything's on the website. I also, on all of my slides today, you'll see that I've had my email. So I am here if you need us for anything. We're just either a phone call or an email away, or click the website and you'll get a lot of information there as well. Thank you for having me today. Hopefully you got a lot of information, and I will now open it up to